Hello and welcome to another episode of Ashley Haden's Political Breakdown, a show where me and guests talk about the week's news and try not to cry. My guest this week is James Harris. Hello, James. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm in Nottingham, which is where I'm a scion or scion of Nottingham. So I'm back in my old bedroom. So it's exciting to be here. I spent a lot of time in this room.
How is it going back to your own room? Is there psychologically, have you regressed?
Well, there's the remnants of an English literature degree, because this is where all my books went after I finished my English literature degree. So
another fucking knobhead who went to university.
Yeah, I did, but I'm kind of taunted by things I should have read in 2002 when I come here. So I think they've probably given up on getting the essays by now. But you know, the guide to Middle English isn't going to read itself.
I mean, it certainly won't, and I hope that you find the time to bore yourself to tears with that.
Yeah.
Let's begin with the news from the week, and let's start with what we both know and love: stand-up comedy, or how it will be known in the future. Do you remember that thing that people did that isn't around anymore? This week, the government has given £1.57 billion to the arts, to museums, to theatres, to not stand-up comedy. First off, why hasn't stand-up comedy received any of the money, do you think?
Well, I guess it's for the same reason stand-up comedy's never got any Arts Council funding, is it? I mean, it's popular, accessible, and relatively cheap, so it can't possibly need any government help, can it?
Is comedy art? That's the first question.
It is when I do it, but most no. I mean,
I've seen you.
Yeah,
it's not art.
It's failed art, which is the worst kind of art.
It's barely spoken word. If we're gonna go down that,
if we're gonna do that, there is speech. I use language. I'm not having that taken away from me. And it's in English as well. I've got that, you know. But I think that
hang on. When you say it's in English, didn't I see you do a bit in Chinese once?
A Chinese film team made a little documentary about me a few years ago. So it could have been that, but I definitely wasn't speaking Chinese in it. I'm learning Chinese because my wife is Chinese.
Yes.
So I think that's going to be the future for all of us in the English comedy circuit. We're going to have to go out to China, learn Chinese, and start performing over there, because we're not going to have the opportunity to. I think comedy's art? I certainly think it needs support at this time if the rest of the arts are getting it.
Yes, I mean, for me, comedy is art. I've always hated being called an artist because it sounds pompous, and stand up. You need a chip on your shoulder, I think, to do stand up. And so going along, oh, you're an artist, like, well, no, I hold a mic and talk, rant at people on stage for an hour. But for all of the, for whatever you want to say, comedy is an art and should be getting the funding that it needs. As you pointed out at the start, it is relatively, comparatively to all of the other things, theatre, galleries, museums, take away from maybe museums and galleries, actually, because they're free, a lot of them, to get in. It is a working class night out for people who want to go to art. The difference between that and, say, like, even with galleries, museums and all of that, the amount of time it takes to see something. I mean, something in a museum is going to take you 20, 30 years for it to be considered to go into a fucking museum. Galleries, however long it takes for the painting to do, you've got an immediate and a working class value to stand up. where you can have working class comedians. You've got tons of working class comedians, none of them on TV or anything like that. But that is a whole other fucking discussion with regards to how comedy in itself is trying to eat itself with the lack of diversity shown in TV and everything else. With this week, there has been Save Comedy, hashtag that's gone along, where a lot of comedians are retweeting a link to give money. What do you think would be the best way of actually saving comedy? Because they're saying that 77% of venues are going to shut indefinitely. So where does the future lie?
Well, you can't perform comedy if you can't have a stand-up scene if you've got nowhere to perform, have you?
Yes.
But the other thing about stand-up is that the entry barriers to even get in a performance space are much lower than any other art form.
Yes.
I mean, between us, I'm sure we've seen a fair share of the world's basements, cupboards, corners, nooks, places which have been taken over to be performed. So I've got no doubt that the art form will find new performance spaces if old ones close. But the problem is, the comedians won't be able to go back to them because they won't have any money.
Well, it's not even that. And having an actual comedy club is different to just a room above a pub.
Absolutely.
And have places like the Comedy Store, like the Stand, Frog and Bucket, all of these places that are set up for stand-up comedy. Without them, the growth of comedy is going to stop. Because yes, you have lots and tons of places that are. I mean, I remember up in the Fringe, I gigged. And anything's a fucking venue in the Fringe of Edinburgh. I gigged under a place, under a building, not in the basement, as in the building came up and went over, and that bit was a venue. It was just like tarpaulin around the sides and some fucking slates. This is a venue. You can gig anywhere, but that's only for the Fringe. You can't just gig anywhere when it's not the Fringe, because you need to get people there is the most important bit. There's health and safety to consider, because there's no health and safety at the Fringe. I mean, if you're just able to make sure 50% don't die, then tick it off, because if only 50% die, then that's another 50% that can put money into the bucket. That's all you're looking for. So to actually save these venues, does it need that comedy needs to be considered with a greater respect than it is currently given?
Yeah, respect is a better word than whether it needs to be considered art or not, because I think one of the good things about comedy, because it hasn't got this kind of like, you need to think about it hard and understand it. It hasn't got this kind of mystique around it in some ways. That's one of the reasons why the entry barriers for it are low. I mean, I know this because I've two art forms I've spent a lot of time in is comedy and writing and publishing, and the entry barriers to publishing are much higher, and you do meet less diverse people when you're involved in publishing than you do in comedy, and I think that speaks for comedy. And in a way, I think it's because people don't have this rarefied idea of comedy. But you're completely right. You definitely need prestigious, well-run venues which acts can progress to. And if they aren't there, then you haven't got a functioning kind of infrastructure for people to come through, have you?
The UK is one of the only places in the world that has a comedy circuit where you can make a living from.
Yeah.
And that's something that we should hold in immense pride. We always go on in the UK about how one of the things with the British is our sense of humour. We've got the best sense of humour in the world, but we seem to miss that all of the sense of humour that we love comes from starting at the bottom with open mics and then getting up to doing the circuit. All of it because it has to, because you have to start from somewhere. You have to put your teeth against something. And the circuit that we have, even for writers, comedy writers have to have something there to learn from. And to do that, they need to perform. You need someone to perform your work, and you can start off with even places like in Camden, where you've got the Etc. Theatre. I think it's the Hen and Chicken, all of these places where you've got these are the type of places that are also not going to be given any funding because they're seen as comedy places. But will this hashtag work, you reckon?
Well, I mean, it's going to work as much as any hashtag is going to work just purely on social media. I suppose you need people in culture and in positions of power who are sympathetic to this. You know, I think mainly from what I can tell about Oliver Dowden, I think it is, who's the culture secretary, he's more interested in established art forms, theatre, ballet, dance. I don't say established as I don't mean that as a kind of positive thing. It's just stand-up comedy has been around less time than these art forms. So I'm not sure where stand-up comedy is. I mean, he's in a government of clowns, so you would think they would have an instinctive sympathy with comedians.
Oh, clowning's going to get lots of clowning's going to get lots of money. They're all going to get lots of money in clowning.
Clown subsidies.
Yeah, no doubt. Improv's going to get fucking money. Which is the lowest form of art that there is.
Yeah, it's
improv and sketch. Like even in comedy, even in stand-up, you look at fucking improv and sketch and go, oh god, I'd have mime above them. Fucking hate improv.
Is this a rare time where there needs to be peace between the stand-up and improv communities in order to secure access to money?
Yes, and I'm more than willing to give my time for improv if they are able to sacrifice just making it up and write some shit. If you make it good, because that's all improv need to do. They're going, oh, what a lovely idea you've just come up with. Now go home and work on it and come back when it's better. They never do, and they do the same shit. That's the thing with improv. It's not improv. Because people say the same stuff all of the fucking time.
Yeah,
so after a time, it's like a stand-up talking to the audience, going, like fucking Al Murray or Dara O'Brien, brilliant to talking to the audience, but it's not like all off the top of your head because you hear the same fucking things all the time. So you've already got things ready for it. Oh, fuckers. It's all off my head. Hey, give me an animal, gorilla. Give me a country, Denmark. Give me something to do. Drinking a cup of tea. Oh, I'm a gorilla from Denmark drinking tea. Aren't I fantastic? Fuck off. Pissy improv shit. Anyway, let's go on to other news, shall we?
Let's do that.
Before I get attacked from all of these people.
Your improvised rant. Bringing the section on improv to an end.
As proof, I've said that before. It's never improv.
Okay. I write my improv.
And there's a difference between ad-libbing and improv. If you ad-lib like the end of a joke, that's not improv. That's just continuing from a written bit, or trying to get from one written bit to another. But that's more technical stuff on stand-up writing. Let's go over to Hong Kong, shall we? Have you been keeping up with Hong Kong and how badly it's all going?
I keep up with Hong Kong, and I keep up with the Uyghurs as well in their re-education camps. Because I think when we think about China now, there's a kind of double pole of tyranny effectively between Hong Kong and the Uyghurs.
Well, it's genocide. China are in the middle of genocide, which is why with the Uyghurs, they're using things like sterilization and forced abortions to stop people from having children. Now, whether or not you want to consider that to be a genocide or ethnic cleansing, that's on you. You do you. I'm not here for to say that you're wrong on picking either of them two, because it's either generational genocide where you're trying to wipe out a generation that aren't there yet, or it's ethnic cleansing. with the stopping them from having children and the million-plus people in concentration camps, because that's what they are. They're not re-education camps; they're concentration camps. That you're flipping a coin over to which one you want to consider that to be. But with Hong Kong, with the new security law that came out the other week, pro-democracy books are being pulled from libraries. So the figures of pro-democracy writing are having their works removed from Hong Kong libraries by Chinese authorities. Now, this is because of the new security law that has basically engulfed Hong Kong with the same totalitarianism as China sees, making things like mocking the national anthem illegal. We're doing sanctions, and the UK is very happy to make everyone know that we're doing sanctions. The US doing sanctions on China with regards to what they're doing in Hong Kong. The B&O passports. How do you think China is going to respond to the UK saying the potential of allowing 2.9 million Hong Kongers, or what's the?
I think it's Hong Kongese. Hong Kongese. Yeah, I think that's what you call them. Yeah.
Being allowed to come over to this country as citizens.
Well, it's not just them. They've said that it might be dependents as well, because a lot of these kids who are on these protests, they don't have this British national status. BNO, isn't it? British national overseas. So the kids who are actually risking their lives. I've been to Hong Kong this year, actually. Yeah, and
how did you find it?
Well,
that was still during protests. Protests were still going on there.
That was before the virus sort of got going. Basically, what it is it's 20-year-old kids with leaflets against large armored tanks and cars. So there's a slight
all protests.
Yeah,
isn't it?
but these ones, the police presence is a militarized police force, and I'm sure it's only got worse. So first of all, obviously you want the kids who are actually doing the protesting and being given the sentences and fleeing to be able to claim refugee status, sanctuary, effectively. But it's
not refugee status. We should point that out.
It's a path to immigration, isn't it?
Well, it's almost bringing them in a version because they were, because Hong Kong was part of the British Empire in 97 or 8 that we ended up handing it back over to China, but with them having semi-autonomous status. So the people who have the B&O passports, their dependents won't be coming over as refugees; they'll be coming over as nationals.
Yeah, I think the exact proposal is a 5-year visa, and then it can be converted into potentially citizenship, or certainly an indefinite leave to remain. The problem about that is the Home Office fees, I know from experience, are extortionate these days. The Home Office makes millions of quid off people's.
Yeah.
I mean, they're amazing, the Home Office, because they treat you like absolute shit, and they also charge you a fortune for it, which is really the kind of nadir of potential customer service. We hate you, and it's expensive. So I think that if that
dominatrix that you weren't expecting.
Exactly. The dominatrix, and you didn't even book them.
Yeah.
They just turn up in your house and they're beating you. So I didn't request this service, by the way.
It's like going to McDonald's and being spanked. I didn't expect this. I just wanted a burger, mate. I only wanted a burger.
The wrong buns. These are not the buns I was expecting. to be mistreated. But
is that a line in the porn version of Star Wars?
I haven't seen it.
These are not the buns I was expecting. Right.
I have to say, porn version of Star Wars gives me unhealthy improv flashbacks. That's sort of like improv standard, isn't it? Star Wars, but something else. It's, oh wow, you know. So I would.
Yes, carry on. Sorry.
I would say that if you're gonna get very expensive fees, then that might attract a wealthier class of Hong Kongese, which might not be the kind of people who need this kind of help the most, who are basically poor students, I think, most of them. So what I would need to see really is the detail on this plan. And obviously, I know it's a boring point, but we should have done this years ago. I mean, we should have had this in place for some time.
But like there was what China were doing at the moment is they're breaking the agreement that was written out by the UK and China back in like '88, where it was, we'll hand it over to you in 10 years' time, but they stay semi-autonomous. You can't just fucking take them over and place in your own laws. And the laws that they're putting in, as I say, I mean, the legislation that they're doing, what they're doing, it's targeting secession, subversion, and terrorism. And the same in every country, and we do this, is when you say terrorism, that's complete and utter control that you have there, because you're just saying, well, everything's terrorism if we say it is. So what are you determining as terrorism? Well, these people want their version of democracy, but that's not what we think democracy is, and they're actually terrorizing a lot of other people. So we're going to put them in prison for their entire fucking lives.
That's what Chinese people think. They think these Hong Kong kids are terrorists. I mean, it's the most ridiculous idea. But before we went, a relative of my wife's was messaging us saying, you know, keep safe and don't let yourself be attacked by the pro-democracy forces. I mean, the idea of being attacked by these kids who are protesting in Hong Kong, they're 20-year-olds with umbrellas. I mean,
saying pro-democracy forces, that should tell you exactly where the mind states and how dodgy somewhere like China has been for the thought of a nation. It's the same with the likes of Russia. It's incredibly skilled totalitarianism, because you're going into the actual thought process of a citizen and subverting their thoughts for democracy's bad. You having a say is wrong. And being able to do that for an entire fucking country of over 1 billion is impressive work.
Yeah,
it really is.
I think when we talk about this stuff, you got to remember that first of all, the average Chinese citizen has got much richer in the last 20 years. Yes. I mean, there's economic transformation.
Oh yeah, the middle classes have grown.
It's huge,
exponentially.
There's still a lot of poverty as soon as you get out of the cities, but it isn't. It isn't in the cities. Poverty is not in your face in China, even in the way it probably is in a lot of Western cities. But in terms of information, Chinese people literally have no idea, for example, that the camps exist. They literally have no idea that the people in Hong Kong are not terrorists. That they have, unless they're part of a small educated class who could read English and have probably lived in the West at some point, they just don't know what's going on. And that's what it is. It's an information blackout. There were periods about 10 or 15 years ago, from what I understand, that the communists were getting a bit more relaxed, and they got quite interested in like rule of law for a while, and they were allowing a lot more press freedom. But from the new guy, I can never remember his name, G, isn't it?
Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah. he's really, there's been a big repression in the last few years of any kind of openness.
Well, a few years ago, one of the things that China did, because with China, one of the things I've always thought is that China is one of those countries that really wants respect. They really want respect on the world stage, and a lot of countries do not give them the respect they feel they deserve because of their lack of human rights. Although the majority of countries like ourselves, the US, and even France and things like this, when they talk, well, you've got no human rights, they're going, well, you have slightly more. Like, you still do awful things. The difference is that you can go after China because everyone thinks of them as the big bad and ignores their own country as the majority of what that's all that fucking being patriotic is. It's ignoring your own awful things and looking at others and looking down your nose at them. A few years ago, China tried to take off some of the control that they have for their own currency, not the yen, the yuan.
Mm-hmm. Isn't it the renminbi or something? Chinese. But yeah, Chinese yuan. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and because for years in forex they've had complete control over it. You couldn't really trade it. It was pointless to trade it. They took some of their the slack off of their control, and the currency fucking went mental. And so straight away they went, no, we don't like this, because you have volatility, and if you have volatility, you do not have as much control as you once did when it comes to your economy. And they went, right, so we need to take off some of the control of this, because that will bring us closer to the world, show that we're not a repressive regime, and people will respect us a bit more.
Yeah.
They tried it, they didn't like it, and they took back control of it. This is what China are all about. They want to be seen as this. This is why they give money to everyone. The US, Africa, fucking Russia. If you want to see where the money is coming from, as there's actually a fantastic point on that. Find the fucking story. Dozens of Scotland's care home buildings are owned by companies based in tax havens and controlled by global hedge funds, private equity, and the Chinese government. And this is the showing of what China are doing now. They've gone away from the idea of respect us to, well, we're going to own everything then.
But I still think they want to respect. I still think they want respect, and I still think. I mean, I think
they want fear now.
Yeah, I still think they. Well, I mean, I think it's a country which it's kind of national story. What my spouse tells me is they've basically been brought up in school that you've got to build China back up again, and you've got to get over all the colonial humiliations we had. You know, the Opium Wars and all this kind of stuff, where China did lose a lot of its territory and was seen as being humiliated. Having had periods in the past where China was, as it is becoming now, also the most powerful country in the world. One of my favorite little statistics or facts is that in the year 1000, AD 1000, there were more people living in China than in the entire rest of the world. That's a fact.
I mean, they're not far off that now.
They're not far. Well, they're a sixth, aren't they? Well, over a sixth. But yes. So China has been successful in the past. It went into a very long period of being less successful. You know, Henry Kissinger calling it the sleeping giant, which will one day awaken, and now it's here. But they've still got, to use the football analogy, a small club mentality. You know, they're basically like Man City. They've got the mentality of 90s Man City and the money of modern Man City, and they still feel like a small club, and they still feel persecuted, and you know.
With China and India and the issues that are going there with regards to territory over their the lines drawn between the countries. There's a particular, I can't remember the name of the mountain range that they both claim that they own, but there's been a lot more aggression over the past say 5 years, and this year especially, they're both dodgy, owned by nutters. Modi being a fucking mass killer, as the same with China. The thing that they both agree on is kill Muslims, which is they both seem to fucking love to do. How bad do you see that getting?
I don't really feel that I know. I don't really feel that I know enough about that to have.
See, I'm absolutely fine with that answer. If you do not know something, then it's fine to just say I do not know.
Yeah, I don't. And I tell you why. I don't follow what's going on in India that well. But having my Chinese spouse, my Chinese spouse and I had quite an amusing discussion about the Uyghurs, which I will tell you because you may enjoy this.
Yeah.
I said to her, look, you just kind of can't do this to people. You know, you can't. You know, we argue about lots of things, some important, but you can't kind of keep people in these camps, sort of thing. And she said,
Yeah.
you know, but what's it the business of the rest of the world? It's like you and I were having an argument, and then the neighbour comes round. And I said, no, it's like you've locked me in the bathroom, and I'm shouting to the neighbour to help me and come round. But I think that's a sort of like that's the kind of.
Well, that brings in an interesting question at that point, and it looks into the history, the most recent history of the West, being of what right does the West have to look at other countries and say you're doing wrong and try to get involved? Does the rest of the world have a right to criticize and try to change other countries?
Well, I think you and I are similar generation. I'm a bit older than you, but we probably have fairly similar. Yeah, quite a lot.
Quite a lot, old
quite
man.
A lot. Yeah, hobbling around over here. But the thing is, right? We do both remember the Iraq War as a kind of foundational political moment, and I'm pretty sure we both think it was fucking stupid. I thought it was fucking stupid at the time, and I still think it's fucking stupid.
Yes,
but I now think it was fucking stupid for a different reason, an additional reason, in addition to the old ones, which is that it has made us unable to intelligently engage with the idea that sometimes we should intervene or consider intervening, because it's just made remember Iraq. Because also, yeah, I remember Iraq, and I also remember we went into Sierra Leone and probably stopped the genocide happening there. Okay.
And
Kosovo, where there are still lots and lots of babies named after Tony Blair, and where it's probably one of the few places in the world where Tony Blair would never have to buy a pint, right?
Yes.
So it's a more complicated story than that. But because Iraq was such a fuck up, it has made us unable, certainly on the left, to engage with intervention in an intelligent way.
It's the same Iraq, and the Iraq War as an argument is the reason why hundreds of thousands of people in Syria have died, and why we've done nothing when Assad used chemical weapons on his own people. The thing that the UN was set up for after World War II to stop. The main thing, never again will we allow chemical weapons to be used on people. And we have allowed it. Why? Because, especially back in like 2017, back before that, it was when Miliband was still thing. So it would have been 16, 17. 16, 15, maybe 15. Yeah, because Obama was in charge, and they wanted to go into Syria. Cameron lost the vote for intervention into Syria because Ed Miliband voted against it and got Labour to vote against it because of Iraq. And they're going, well, since we didn't intervene, chemical weapons have been used, and chemical weapons were used at that point. And the question is, where is the line? So you say, well, if this happens and we have to do something, we've passed that line. Around the world, we have passed that line. So we now it's almost like we do not have the ability to say to anyone now, you can't do that. And all we've got is sanctions. All we've got is sanctions. And sanctions, especially in the likes of Russia, China, and things, they're fine with some of their people dying. They don't give a fuck. You sanction Russia, and all that does is affect the poor people in Russia. It doesn't affect the fucking oligarchs, because the oligarchs don't give a fuck, mate. They do not care. And unless you're actually going to go after the rich of a nation, and if you do, China is a prime example with what they can potentially do to this country. China, the rich in China put a lot of their money and spend a lot of their money in the UK. If they stop doing that, that will affect our economy. We're currently at a point where, because of the pandemic and no deal Brexit, we need all the money we fucking can do at this point. So we place sanctions on China. China are going to turn around and go, well, here's no money for you. Then how long until we take off the sanctions? Because we're not the Billy Big Bollocks that we once were.
Yeah, I mean, it's another argument against Brexit, basically, as well, isn't it? Because the only way, if you got some leverage where you go like, okay, well, I got 560 million potential customers who don't want to engage with your country, then that's more impressive. As you know, as you say,
well,
we're going to be scrabbling around for every cent that we can get. But I still think
EU is the only part. So the EU is the only other bloc that can compete with the US and China.
Yeah, it's the liberal democratic. Yeah, it's the closest we've got to kind of social democratic bloc in the world, because the US model of capitalism is pretty different from
fucking
ours.
Psychotic. I mean, in this country, it's dreadful as well. Capitalism as it is, as we see now, because this isn't like the 1950s capitalism. This is capitalism on fucking all of the hard drugs together, whilst fucking screwing over your nan.
You're going to get a Nando's voucher, though. I mean, we're going to get 10 quid off Nando's. So let's not pretend it's not working out for us.
Can you think of a stupider thing that they could possibly come up with? Now, a voucher, say 500. One of the ideas that was coming out before half-price Wagamamas, £500 to every adult to only be able to be spent in part of the economy that need cash injections. What did you think of that idea?
Well, I'm all for a bit of Keynesian stimulus. I don't know how effective targeting specific sections would be if the consumer confidence isn't there, which is the main thing holding people back. But yeah, I'm for one of the few countries which came through the great financial crash in relatively good form was Australia, right? And they literally cut everyone a check for $1,000 Australian dollars each, and they could spend it on whatever they want. Not, of course, it was slightly different because the economy was open as normal. It was just doing it badly. But you know, things are opening now. There are restaurants open, there are pubs open. If you've got money, you can go and spend it.
Have you been down a pub yet?
I have. I had a pint last week.
I went down the pub. I've been down the pub twice so far. I went on my own on Tuesday. Went into a pub, had to sign me name and me number on there. They weren't flirting with me, more to the pity. But it's the first time someone's asked for my number in some time. It has been quite a lonely time. Am I right? Am I right? But I went to the thing, got myself a pint, £6.50. Fuckers. That's the bit that annoyed me the most. The cost.
Yeah, I think that's probably the drawback for all Londoners of getting a 500 gift from the government, or as it's known at our ends, a round.
Yes, it's
So
ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. The costs of it, they're going, well, listen, don't make everything so expensive that I don't want to go down the pub. I got myself here, like £8.50 for a bottle of wine. Delightful. I'll drink a bottle of wine. I'm not going to go out down the pub and spend £8.50 on a pint and then get a round in for everyone. It's 4 people, £26.50 for a round. £26.50. That's £6.50 a fucking drink. You're high, mate. You're high, so you are.
I would like to raise an objection against the new social media phenomenon of pub shaming, which has risen up a little bit. Like, how
What's
dare
pub
you?
shaming?
Well, just people having a go at people for going and having a pint or whatever. Because let's bear in mind, we have all been locked up for several months, and there are a lot of people like myself. I'm a pretty social, gregarious person. I like to hang out with people. I miss it. If I don't have it for months on end, it's not great for my mental health. So I really enjoyed going and having a quiet pint. I wasn't trying to kill anybody through going to have a pint. I wash my hands thoroughly afterwards. I just think we've got to get into a position where we don't have a mass freak out. Like, there were pictures of people in Soho and people were going, oh my God. Well, you know, they've been cooped up for months.
No, that wasn't fucking pictures in Soho. That was no one's social distancing.
That's true.
That's the issue.
Soho, yeah, that is the issue. Yeah, I get.
If you want to, I've got no qualms with anyone going down the pub for a pint. I love a pint. I love the pub. I mean, you can check me bank balance. I love a pub. Big fan of the fucking things. In fact, next week, potentially, Political Breakdown will be back at our venue. So I can have a midday pint. Be fucking lovely. But it's the social distancing aspect. That's the problem. The problem is that if you're all going, like, I was lucky. First, I went down the pub alone. I was on my own, so everyone's fine. 4 people I was 3 people I was there with on Thursday. There was distance between us, but there wasn't 2 meters. I know we don't need it. We only need a meter now, don't we? Until they tell us that we need fucking 30 centimeters or 6 inches, and then men are going to be fucking closer to each other than they think they are, because no man really knows what 6 inches is. Okay. All right. Anyway, we've got maybe like 15 minutes left, and we've done hardly any of the news that we wanted to cover.
Yeah, we just got stuck in China, but China's a big topic.
It is a very big topic.
Yeah. And to be honest, I've got to say, I don't think China gets talked about enough.
No,
I mean, given how important it is.
Well, considering that it's the problems that it's doing at the moment, it does require, and it is a point where even Australia, who do a lot of fucking business with China, have said, or everyone in Hong Kong, fuck it, come over here. You know?
Yeah, just while we bring that section to a close, I do think I'd like to apologise to the Chinese government, because I did compare them to 90s Man City, which I'm pretty sure is the most insulting thing you can say to any people.
I am not going to apologise to the Chinese government, nor ever going to go to China, because I would be arrested.
Well, I have to go. I go every year, and I must say, I always have a great time. I love my in-laws.
I'm not doubting that
I love the food, and they're just like people, you know. But their government is.
Well, yeah, that's it, and it's always talking about the government. It's the same with Israel. If you want to not be anti-Semitic, always mention that the Israeli government are a pile of far-right murdering shit stains. Sure. The people are probably lovely. The same with China. Chinese government, awful, genocidal pieces of human wank. The people, no doubt, delightful. Always make sure it's the government you go after, not the people, because the people, although they may vote for it, and they fucking don't, because you're not voting in China, really, are you? You've got them or them.
You don't even have the second them in China. You've got them. That's it. That's your electoral options are them. It's the same in Russia, isn't it? Do you agree with Putin's constitutional reform? Do you agree?
Oh, mate, that whole fucking. Let's get on to Russia. While we're here, Russia's fake referendum about the constitutional reform of allowing Putin to stay in forever or not. There are other bits into it in that referendum, because they put everything in the referendum, just one. It was like fucking Brexit on steroids, the type of questions, because it was, can Putin stay in for longer? Also, do you want to have more money, more pensions, better pay? And it was just one vote. So if you wanted to be paid more and you wanted to have a better pension, but you didn't want Putin to turn into a fucking demagogue,
Right.
then you've only got one vote. It's not like, oh, I want this. It's the, and they did a fucking prize giveaway as well if you voted. So you could get yourself a washing machine if you vote. It was the weirdest thing you're possibly going to see for voting, to get people to vote in the way to allow Putin in for longer. It was fucking ridiculous.
So, yeah, there was also the one small region of Russia, I think in the sort of northeast, which rejected him, and kudos to them. If you are prepared in a clearly rigged referendum to vote so clearly against something that they can't rig the results, there's just one region which were just like, no. And apparently it was, as a lot of these things are local issues, they've been very badly run, lots of corruption, wanted to send a signal. But there is a small point on the Russian map where you look at which regions voted yes, all yes, and then one little region sticking its fingers up at Putin, and I think they should be applauded.
Oh, they should be applauded, and it's very sad that they were wiped out.
Or it's very sad that, and I commiserate their sad deaths next month.
Yeah, it was very sad when that all happened. Who would have thought that a stray asteroid would have hit that exact spot? Oh,
exactly.
Oh,
unfortunate.
The luck some people. Who knew that plutonium would have come out in their water supply? What are the chances, my friend? What are the chances when they had radioactive chickens?
I'm sure it has not. I'm sure it has been noted in the Kremlin.
Yes. I can't believe Chernobyl happened again. Right. From one mad, power-hungry cunt to another. Dominic Cummings. He's been in the news this week. This is from over in Australia, where they got this. It turns out that he has requested to visit 5 classified sites, including facilities that specialise in defence intelligence. Now, he's already visited MI5 and MI6 twice for some fucking reason. I'm not sure why a political advisor would be allowed to visit these sites. But this is all for his shake-up of the military. I'm not sure how to ask this question. He's already running everything. How can he possibly be stopped?
I don't know. He's very powerful, isn't he? And clearly Johnson doesn't think he can do things without him, which is why he sacrificed his credibility.
He can't. Johnson can't sacrifice credibility. It's like me sacrificing height. I don't have it in the first place, mate. I'm not sacrificing anything.
But his leadership ratings did take a right hammering as a result of that. And
yeah, but latest polls still have Tories 10 points ahead of Labour.
I think it's about 5 or 6 now, isn't it?
Depending on the poll.
Yeah.
But is there a way? Because he is now the most powerful man in the country.
Yeah, he is.
For no reason at all. He's not that intelligent. His form of intelligence is the same as the fucking far-right free speakers who love to say, well, I think you'll find if you believe this, this, and this, then actually it's this. You go, no, I know you think you know science, but you don't. You've read it and you're repeating it, but you don't understand the intricacies of what you're saying. So he's going to be He's going to be singling out 5 top secret defense sites in the coming weeks. Why? Why is he doing it? What is it to gain? What is he hoping to change?
I think he's got this kind of theory of disruption, hasn't he? That he thinks you have kind of, and you get this idea in football again a bit, that you have a player who just kind of runs around disrupting everything and creating this kind of chaos to break up old institutions. He's also after the civil service, isn't he? Which is why multiple senior civil servants have resigned over the last few weeks.
Well, Sedwill resigned, which is massive.
Yeah, another one, and there were another couple. So clearly, he understands his role to shake up just about all institutions.
Well, what is he hoping to change? How does he want it to be done?
It's it's weird, isn't it?
Because from what I've read, what he wants is to have only a select few as the ideas people. So instead of at the moment where we've got all these different, like in government, you have the culture secretary, the fucking health secretary, justice secretary, all of this. They've all got their own little things because the prime minister cannot, no human being can create the answers, keep track of everything. So as the management structure, as it were, is prime minister, and then the managers underneath who look after everything and report to him. Dominic Cummings looks like he wants to get rid of all of these managers and have a select few people in charge of absolutely everything. That is a concern when he's the one in charge. I mean, it's a concern anyway. You need to have it spread out because you need something fucking running. You can't have one person with his fingers in every pie. Or can you? Do you think you can?
Well, it sounds almost like the model of a sort of Confucianism, like this very small little cabal of people who are all highly educated and then make all the decisions. So it actually sounds closer to how China is run than how, you know, sort of liberal parliamentary democratic model. I don't know. I mean, Cummings is really, really interested in science, isn't he? That's his big thing. And I think he sees that we have to become a sort of gigantic kind of science park. And we're all this kind of, with this hive of innovation, and he's interested in how do you create an environment which is very, very friendly for science.
Well, on his scientists' great ideas, taxpayers have to stump up 10 billion for test and trace system, which is still not fully operational. So we've paid 10 billion so far for this, and it hasn't worked. We spent 15 billion on PPE. We've also got rid of some of the evidence of this as well, where the Department of Health have deleted emails that show that we have taken PPE from Turkey, which we did a few months ago, and it turned out that we couldn't use over half of it because it wasn't up to scratch. And the Department of Health have no evidence of that. I mean, there is evidence because there's fucking tweets about it and actual video evidence of it all. But the Department of Health got rid of all of that. And this is when you've got someone who claims they care so much about science, but seems so bad at doing it. I'll go as far to say, like other news, a Cabinet Office has awarded an £840,000 contract to research public opinion about government policies to a company owned by 2 long-term associates of Gove and Cummings, without putting in any tender. So there's no tender, and this is no public tender has been a mark of this government throughout this pandemic. We are handing out money to friends of the government, and it's not all of the government. It's just fucking Robert Jenrick who all of that goes back to Boris Johnson and the Desmond stuff for Westbury, which I've spoken about for fucking weeks on this thing. Michael Gove and Cummings, because people forget Cummings used to work for Gove. When
education, right?
Yeah, when it was education, Cummings was the fucking man in the ear for Gove when he fucked up education. They're all so inside each other. Cummings wants to be seen as an anarchist. That's how he wants. I'm fighting the system. He's not. He wants to control the system.
That's it. Yeah, that's it.
Right, we don't have tons of time, so we're going to very quickly go through what is going to be about 40 fucking news stories. So we'll want quick things from you. Boris Johnson has nominated Grayling to chair key security committee overseeing Russia report.
I mean, that's just beyond a joke, isn't it? I mean, if a bloke who spent millions on a ferry company without ferries has any political future, we may as well give it all up, mightn't we?
They all fail upwards. Why, very quickly, a sentence, why do you think we haven't released the Russia report yet?
I've got no idea. It's incriminating, I suppose.
There you go. That's my thought exactly. Leaked Liz Truss letter has warned Boris Johnson's Brexit border plan risks smuggling, legal challenge, and global reputational damage. Are you surprised?
No, but great time to go into smuggling for any wannabe smugglers out there.
If I'm surprised by anything, it's the fact that Liz Truss could write a letter. She is.
Didn't she write the book Eat, Shoots and Leaves, Liz Truss?
I don't think so. She is the one who did one of the Tory conferences, spoke about cheese for too long.
Yeah, I remember that clip.
Good
I
God.
remember that clip.
Facebook's has done an internal audit into their problems, and they have found a vexing and heartbreaking decisions are causing significant setbacks for civil rights. And that is an internal report. So they did that themselves and said, we're fucking up quite hard. Do you think Facebook will change?
I would rather it just goes away by now.
I mean, one would hope. What else have we got? Dominic Raab has announced sanctions against human rights abusers. Same day, they resumed sales for Saudi Arabia, arms sales for Saudi Arabia. Do we actually care, this government, do we actually care about human rights abuses, or is everything that we're doing just for headlines?
No, we do. There are people who care, and there are pressure, but it's the economic imperative, which is it's 4.7 billion a year sales to Saudi. So that's what's talking. It's money talking in that instance.
A third of Britons unsure or definitely won't use vaccines. Should we kill them now?
Yeah, it will save time later.
Good. Boris Johnson earlier this week sparked anger by blaming care home providers for coronavirus deaths. Is this going to affect anything that Boris Johnson does in the future?
I mean, it's probably a new low, so we should be impressed that he's found a new nadir. It's a nihilistic surprise, I suppose.
he went on in Prime Minister's question to say that he didn't say that, although there is actual evidence that he did say that, and he's a lying piece of shit, and he should be held accountable for his lies. Clive Lewis, Labour MP, has suggested a 4-day working week to help the economy recover. Good idea, bad idea?
I think for a lot of people at the moment, that would be 4 extra days of work, wouldn't it? So that sounds like an improvement. I think we're going to need an any day a week which you can
a
get.
4 day a week work can help to stimulate the economy. We shall see. That's pointless. Don't want that. Migrant women have been deliberately left out of UK's abuse bill, says campaigners. So there's the abuse bill happens to leave out migrant women. Is that racism or sexism, do you reckon? Or fun mix
I
up?
think it's a delightful combination of both of them. But I have to say, although it's terrible. There's good stuff in that bill.
Oh, yes.
It's a good bill. It's better than the original bill which proposed. And now what they need is some money and funding so they can get some of the provisions properly supported. And obviously, they need to bring migrant women into the bill as well.
Yes. Trump's taxes. New York Supreme Court has said that New York prosecutors can see the records. Are we going to find out that he's never paid tax?
Yes, we are, but after he's lost the election.
I hope he fucking loses it. If he does lose it, is he going to leave?
Yes, he will, because if you look at him more and more these days, he looks tired and it looks like he's had to do some actual work and he's not enjoying it.
Cool. Right. I'm going to finish on these couple of stories. Labour MP Dawn Butler has closed offices after receiving racist threats. Black lives do matter. Stop being racist, cunt, you assholes. If you're going to go after a politician, do it only for their actual policies. The idea of going after someone for the colour of their skin is dreadful, awful, and scum. So stop it. Met police officer charged with belonging to a far-right terror group. Not surprising at all. Ireland have taken a key finance job in the EU, which is going to be so much fun heading forward. That's going to be delightful. I look forward to Ireland, who were during the 2008 recession, were part of PIGS, which is Portugal, Ireland, Italy, Greece and Spain, for the countries in the EU that were worse hit. So they had to take a lot of money from the EU, paid it all back very well. So it's going to be very interesting to see what they do. Boris Johnson's looking to restructure the NHS, which I assume is going to be renaming it "You Don't Own This Shit Anymore." President Trump has commuted the prison sentence of Roger Stone in a thing that China have said, fucking hell, I wouldn't go that far. Boris Johnson is being a dickhead, and the Trump administration has handed emergency loans to Kanye West and the Church of Scientology as other small businesses are going bust, in a way that Russia would say, not even us. Do you have anything to plug?
I'll plug my Twitter at James Harris Now. Please follow me.
That'll all be below.
That's lovely. And I hope you keep him well.
Or I'll speak to you when we stop recording.
Okay.
As a quick chat. So I want to thank James for coming on. Thanks for the people watching it. Do what you need to do, and goodbye.